Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the QTech Connection, episode 5. Wow, can't believe it's been 5 episodes. I'm your host, Andres, and with me is my co-host.
Mallory. And
Welcome
today,
back.
today we just want to share with you something. You guys might not notice, or you guys might notice that our podcast is all very digital, but that's because we're in different locations. So I'm
Yes.
currently in Vegas, and Andres is currently in Florida, in Miami. So just
Correct.
wondering, just if you guys were wondering, why aren't you guys like on the same space, have different,
Because it has been a question. There's been a couple of questions that I received is, why do you guys are in boxes or not in some
Yeah.
space? It's because we are several
And
miles away. But we're still here. We're still bringing you some information, sharing our journey with all of our listeners. And today's episode, it's going to be a little different. We've been listening to a lot of feedback, and some of the people want to hear some of the struggles, some of the challenges, because we kind of have been sharing some of them, but we really haven't given you like a case study into one of our projects that started as a rising sun and ended up being just a gigantic storm of
horror story.
horror stories. Correct. So as you guys were aware, our first project that we had together, it's the medical center where IT and digital marketing came together. We learned some good lessons. We adapted and pulled through, and we had a success story. And it was even though COVID was part of that segment, it was very organic of how things developed because of communication between ourselves and the customer. Here is a project that started back in 2018, way before all those things. And it's a construction company. We were supposed to start the project with them in IT and digital marketing. And they're relocating their headquarters. So brand new construction, a brand new beautiful building, 4-story building, car garage, beautiful, beautiful architectural building. I was looking forward to the final design and implementation of that building. And discussion started back in 2018. We've had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of planning, elemental discussions from the branding that Mallory had with the customer, because now as 2018 closed, 2019 started. So digital marketing was just now gearing up. And that's when we brought them on board to start discussions in that space. At the same time, IT was engaged on pre-planning, discussing with architects, looking at floor plans and showing that we had the proper areas to set up our closets, our IT closets, as some people know them, or IDFs and MDFs. IDFs are distribution points for adjacent floors, and MDF is kind of like the main hub, the main center where all your IT equipment resides, your servers, your switches, your entire stack, as it's called. And as we had all those discussions from the perspective, we started getting head counts, equipment counts, network layouts, diagrams, talking with electricians, general contractors, ensuring again that all of our locations were marked, that all the requirements that were needed were going. And again, we were pushing to the project, and some red flags started showing up, especially as we got closer to COVID. As we all know about it, COVID just, it's going to be one of those things in history that a lot of people are going to go back and say, man, crazy time. So based on that, some meetings started getting canceled, and we were at a point of the project where equipment was already ordered for some of the elements that we had to do, cabling, all of the networking type of things that we needed, the wiring, the access points, all of the infrastructure that came with that, the cabinets, the racks, all the hardware was already ordered and on the way. But as we go through this story, we're going to get a good case study about when communication breaks. And before I continue, I kind of want Mallory to chime in a little bit in reference to her project, how her site got started, because I don't want to get too far in the story to then have to retract back as Mallory joins. So just recapping again, IT engaged first. We started all the pre-construction meetings, discovery, looking at the floor maps, understanding what was needed, ordering equipment, because we were working with a tight deadline. They wanted to get this building up and running as quickly as possible, get things moving forward. So again, we'll work. And I said it, some red flags started coming to play later on 2019, but I'll let Mallory kind of share with us her startup journey with this construction company from the digital marketing side.
Yes, from the digital marketing side, it was a little bit different because remember that for Andres, he already had this built, everything, all the systems were up and running, and he already had all of his processes up in place. I didn't have that on my case. So I was still in the process of how do I create the contracts? How do I accommodate the packages? Which ones are more fitting? And this was a full relaunch when it comes into the marketing side. It was okay, yes, we're moving into the headquarters, but we need a full specific branding, full branding strategy, also a launch. So they were going to have an event. So we needed to include PR, we need to do videography, we need to do photography and things like that. So when you are also going through construction and all of those items on the other side, clients tend to get very impatient. They tend to snap a lot and they want to see everything done yesterday. So especially when you are talking about construction and things like that, because it's physically it's getting built, but then I jump in and I start picking their brains pretty much. So what does it mean to you? So what is your mission? So what is your vision? And for some reason, when clients or CEOs are under a lot of pressure, they forget what their business is. So that was a big process of rediscovery, and then also not harassing, but you feel like you're harassing their team to get pictures done. So getting their pictures, having everyone aligned, it takes a lot of patience. And at the same time, we were trying everything with the medical center. So I was building everything with the medical center. And once everything was working there, like a specific area, because they were both from scratch. So all the way from logo creation to expansion of your brand. So to your website. So I was like creating, testing here, and then applying here. But then this other project was just a mess. So my applying what supposedly was working was not working with them. But it was mainly all because of communication, lack of coordination of due dates. That was a big one until COVID hit. And then it just flipped everything. So you can share your
Yeah.
side.
So going back, as you're discussing about the challenges that digital marketing had in getting the customers to provide information, I was laughing because we still encounter that challenge nowadays, getting customers to give us digital assets and such. I was also reminded about the medical center. I completely almost forgot that those two projects kind of, because of delays and everything else, kind of started working side by side for a second. And that was an interesting challenge for us because this is the first time where we had such a good, or not good in the sense of planning and allocating resources, but two projects from scratch, from both, again, groundbreaking construction all the way down to management of systems and services, starting and being managed at the same time. And I do remember I did a lot of driving between both locations. Sometimes I had meetings back to back. And since, again, dear listeners, since this was before COVID, Teams, Zoom, all those technologies were not widely utilized yet. People still at that time preferred face-to-face meetings. GCs and contractors wanted to be on site and get all those project meetings there. So it required a lot of driving, a lot of flexibility, a lot of patience. But the challenge that came to us during that process was we now have two massive construction projects running at the same time. So we had to get smart about allocating resources. We had to get smart at reviewing deliveries for equipment on X location and B locations and such to avoid any lack of coverage or any delays from our part with our equipment. Because in construction, if you're not aware of construction, there's a lot of timetables that you follow. There's a lot of things that get pre-scheduled. Different trades go in at different times and they follow next to each other to avoid delays, because as inspections and permits and reports that are needed are done, any delay that you cause, you can add days, weeks, or months to the construction schedule. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to be the company that all the fingers get pointed to saying, why are we delayed? Oh, it's so and so's fault, because that's not a really good thing to have on your record. So,
But let me jump in right there really quickly, because a lot of people, and this is something that I really love about both departments? Because a lot of people say, well, why are you guys both doing it like joining forces as one? But I think it's really cool because what you just explained is exactly how it works for my end. If a due date is not met, everything has to be shifted. Photographers, videographers, makeup artists, rehearsal appointments, or branding strategies, or the content planning has to be switched. The design relies on the copy, and the copy designs on the strategist, and that one designs on SEO. So there's so many things that is also by due dates. And also, if construction delays, they also end up delaying all of us.
Grand opening. There's a lot of things that you guys have to plan for the grand opening. People get invited.
Yeah.
Usually we have, depending on the location and such, usually I have, the mayor of the city, ribbon cutting ceremonies, press,
Yep.
and a lot of things that are scheduled around those dates. So again, being the general contractor or being the subcontractor that delays that project, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that company. Same goes for what Mallory was saying. It is very important to follow those due dates and go in and go out when the GC tells you to avoid any delay. So as we were handling that project with the medical center and dealing with their team, dealing with the communications and everything, as 2019 was coming to an end, things started going south with the construction company. And I think in retrospect, I guess because of their construction company, they've done it so many times, they were a little more laid back with the systems they usually have in place. Usually, I was used to construction jobs. We usually have at least once a week, all hands on deck meeting, where the GC, all the contractors and subs and everybody's there reviewing everything, reviewing schedules, reviewing next steps, and ensuring that for the following week you're preparing plumbing, electrical, HVAC, whichever you're coming in, you're doing this. This is where you're at. How we doing with this? How we doing with that? To ensure that the entire team understood where we were and where the priorities of the following week are going to be, and any challenges that we had in the meantime to ensure that, hey, HVAC, you're behind schedule, bump it up. Hey, Q-Tech, when did you guys run the wires because we got to do X, Y, and Z? We got to make sure that gets done. So all of those elements were key, and we didn't have a lot of those now that I think about it. And again, it seems just because, we do it all the time. We don't need them. We're a construction company. And that's when things started falling apart big time. As I mentioned it before, the company already had made a sizable monetary financial contribution to the project. We already had almost 90% of the materials and equipment that we needed to get things running in the warehouse. Back then, we used to only request 50% deposit for hardware. That is something that we changed. Now, anytime there's hardware involved, those gets paid 100% of full upfront. Again, lessons learned. 2020 starts and places around the world start shutting down. Communication with the company starts becoming non-existent.
Yep.
I do recall vividly, it was a Friday afternoon. I placed a call to Mallory asking, hey, have you heard from the customer? It has been 3 to 5 months and we still have not received an update on these elements and next steps. And I do recall your answer saying, I had been bombarding them, emails,
Yep.
phone calls. I even been stalking their social media accounts to try to get someone to answer. And here's the part that started getting people nervous because at that time, again, a lot of time had gone into the place. Construction already starting. At that point, I think the second floor was already going up. We've already been wiring and doing things on the first floor and getting things ready. And the second floor was already on its way. And another foundations and things were happening on the other areas. But there was no communication. Finally, we get an email that the entire project was being put on hiatus and the culprit was COVID. There's been some challenges the company had, and that was the last we heard. Several months passed and we continued to try to engage. They're saying, yes, we're going to kickstart again. We're going to kickstart again. We're just waiting for the economy and things to kind of go back to whatever normal. As we all know, we lasted several years with just, a once in a lifetime pandemic that affected a lot of aspects of our lives. And I believe it was Mallory that got the first call.
Very interesting call.
Do you recall that? Because not only did
New
we go ahead, please.
new team. So, from my point of view, we had already delivered a lot of digital assets and we were just waiting for, the final due dates because I kept dragging team members, which at that point they were not team members. They were just subcontractors that I was just trying to get because I was trying to build my team. So this project was really kind of breaking my system building process and my team. So while I was kind of building a little team with the medical center, I couldn't have these people be super involved with a very on-off project. So I had to look elsewhere, get outsourced, and I was working with this other, PR team, and I was with another photographer and all of that. And they all work with deadlines. They all work with due dates. And me pushing due dates and making excuses. One, it really did affect us as QTech, but they understood that it was from the client. And then number two, then I just received a call from a new management team that is
Oh,
looking to do a relaunch. We're like, hold on. We were working on the relaunch already. We have worked on digital assets. We have invested in photography, in videography. We have done all these things. We already have a plan in place for PR. Like, who are you? Like,
it
there's,
was,
it was out of the blue. There was, I had been harassing via email. There was no communications. And now
man,
this full team comes in. I get access. One of the things that QTech has is that you're one of our clients. No matter what happens, even if you go through a tsunami, we're going to be there for you and we're going to be there with you. Even if you have to take a break of a year, because we've had clients go through that, because we serve and cater to small businesses. We understand that there's ups and downs, but what we want to make sure that everyone understands is that even through the downs, we're sticking with you because we're the base that's going to help you get back up again. So, through all of that, now they want to do a relaunch. But they already have a logo. It's not the logo that we provided, it's a different logo. And in case of no one knows, logos have to be registered. Art,
trademark.
digital art, it has to be trademarked, yes. And so number one, they discarded our work, which it was it hurt. And then number two, they wanted to run ads, they wanted to do a lot of things, but they were messing around with what we had installed before. There was money invested in those accounts digitally, but it wasn't recorded properly. So us jumping in for ads or us jumping in for different things, it was just affecting our work and how and they were giving us very tight deadlines also. So at that point, we were just trying to survive pretty much and trying to give all of the digital assets and fix all of the internal issues they had, digitally speaking. And then from there, try to work as much as we could to try to meet those deadlines. We did have to push some things, but at the end, you
What
know,
a what a challenging time that was, and again, it's amazing how the mind works because I'm as you're speaking and as you had that conversation because they reached out to you first, and then right after you finished that phone call, you called me right away. It's amazing how I'm being transported to that moment and saying what like what's going on, and then from there I get a phone call
panic
from
attack
the
mode.
owner. Yeah, well,
Hmm.
eh, it's again, it's been a few years. Going back, the emotions are not as raw as they were back then. I was stressed. I think I lost I don't know how many pounds and everything else because of
But
again.
but you handle stress better than I do.
I do. I lose weight when I'm really stressed and things like that, and
I panic.
you panic. I stay calm. My body
Yeah.
takes the toll, and I'm able to refocus, but it wasn't pleasant. And again, the years that pass by gives you a different perspective. I'm able to laugh about it now and things like that
Mm.
because again, it was a massive project. It was at that time it was one of the biggest projects that we were starting. The medical center was about second or third to other projects that we had. So this one's a four-story building. There's a lot of infrastructure goes into there, especially when it comes to wiring. We had to wire for access control, CCTV, wireless, networks, printers, phones, computers. equipment that goes into the office, print plotters and stuff like that for the different departments and additional equipment that goes through there. So there was a massive network infrastructure that we had, switches that we had, and all of that has been sitting in inventory. I couldn't touch it because technically it still belonged to the customer, to this project. We talked about attorneys getting involved and saying if we were able to collect something out of there and see what we can do. So getting that phone call was so real, especially talking to Mallory saying, they're back, they're back, they're back. I'm like, but I'm like, oh my God, they're back, but what? Like I was helping,
But
she's gonna tell me,
everything's a
but they
mess.
just threw everything away and we're done, they're fired. And I said, what's the what? And she goes, no, but new management team, all the stuff that we had, it's out the window, but we made the cut. And I said, what do you mean we made the cut? Well, they, in that phone call, they asked her for all the contracts that we had, all of the agreements in reference to branding and digital assets, as well as all the IT stuff. And here's where episodes 1, 2 connect really well, because if we didn't have that organization,
Yep.
Mallory could not have submitted all those things as she was handling the phone call. Because early on, we came up with a nice system to organize all of our client files and records. So in that same phone call, she was able to say, and I was so happy because I was on the road, and she goes, they asked for all of these documents. I went to the customer folder where we have all of our folder structures, attach, emailed them. They confirmed the receipt, and they said, you know what? You're the only ones that you've been able to do this so far. We're going to keep working with you guys. And I said, what do you mean they want to keep working with us? Like, yeah, I guess they're dropping contractors. I'm like, oh my God. So I never really inquired what happened to the contractors, if they lost something. I'm probably sure they were made full. But again, it was one of those things that I didn't want to think about because I still had a massive inventory in a warehouse collecting dust. So challenges with this project outside of COVID, outside of communication, outside of the breakdown from A through Z, outside of the financial implications that it meant to the company, as well as legal ramifications because of breach of contracts and such, a new management team comes on board. And all of the floor plans, all of the things that we have worked on have been completely revamped as well. So not only did they take all the digital assets that Mallory and our digital marketing team had put together, approved, and already worked on, they took the floor plans and said, we are only going to do 2 floors now, and we're going to streamline a lot of things. So back to the drawing boards, back to reassessing GC, new GC, so getting caught up to date, what was done, re-picking up construction, re-certifying things, re-verifying things, because at this time, the job site was on hiatus for quite some time. So there's a lot of prep work that needs to come back. Some things have to be demolished and be brought together because they've been sitting on the elements for X amount of time. So kickstarting this project came together. And one of the things that I do recall on job site that Mallory touched on here was the owner coming to us saying, man, we do appreciate you guys, because out of all the contractors that we've had, you guys have been one of the most seamless ones to get caught up with. You had good record keeping, you had great communication, and you were able to bring us up to speed on what you guys were doing for us and the previous company as we came in as new management. So we appreciated that, and that was a little like the universe saying, yes, it sucked for a while. You were stressed. It was a nightmare, but guess what? Nice pat on the back. Yes, and it was a surreal moment because from that point forward,
It was a surreal moment.
A new management team changed everything so drastic. And again, I've experienced that before. Management teams have so much power. Actually, earlier this week, I had this conversation with some of our team members where I said, I don't want to become this type of management. I don't want to be this type of management. The reason why QT came together is to be able to work as a team, as a unit. We all chip in, we all do brainstorming. And this was that other moment where I said, man, that the right people in the right place make a big difference. And it connects to our previous episodes in reference to think about your structure. Think about how you are setting up your team, how you're setting up your processes, because they do matter. And this project, and I'm sure there'll be more to come, this is just the worst nightmare case study that we've had ourselves. We've had others, but again, not to this level,
Yeah, no.
where my goodness, it was just like,
Everything was flipped. Everything was upside down. When they disappeared, everything was in the air. Everyone was worried. Everyone was stressed out. No one knew where we looked like crazy chickens running. Well, at least on my end, we looked like crazy chickens running from side to side. While at the same time, I did have a lot of panic episodes or panic attacks. And I think that that's something that I've learned. I still need to improve. He keeps me very collected. He's very calm when I freak out. He's like, okay, well, we can fix it this way. In my case, I freak out, and then if I freak out, then the team starts to freak out too. So I had to stay stable to the team that was working with the medical center because that was a team that was going to stay for long. And then I had to improvise
oh my God,
with
you just
all of the
reminded me.
teams that were external, that they were not hired as a Q-Tech because
They were
that was my
contractors
testing.
because
Yeah, that was
Mhm.
my testing, and my testing wasn't working. So then after all of that, at the end of the day, we were able to provide a good.
But it was a heck of a challenge for us because, as you were mentioning, the temporary additional help that we have to bring on board because of the delays, we have to shift our people to the medical center and bring additional contractors to help us with this one. How bad that made us look,
Yep.
because we had deposits, we had agreements, we had dates, and everything kept getting postponed. And I felt bad because they were probably saying, man, who did we go in business with? Those people don't know the right hand from the left. I have a meeting today, but tomorrow I don't. And then this
Mm,
meeting moves to 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, and they also are not.
yeah,
We're not able to give them closure because they
we
receive a
don't know.
deposit, which again further expenditure from our part, and they're living limbo because they also want to close that order. They also want to be able to do the photo shoot. They also want to be able to do whatever
Yeah.
designs and creatives they need to generate. But we couldn't move them forward. And we engaged some of them in other projects that came on board, but we were focused again because of the scale of this job. We didn't want it to just fall through the cracks, and we kept on top of it. We tried to make it work, but it was just very stressful. It shook me to my core. It was one of the jobs that made me stop and say, "Is this really worth it? Is this really what I really want to follow through? Is this bringing me more stress or unwelcome things in my life than just focusing on other things that I might find joy with?" And those are some of the challenges you're going to find as you go and you start your own business. It's not all roses and sunshines. There's
Rainbows and
some
unicorns.
exactly. It's a lot of there's some going to be some storms. There're going to be some dark moments like this one that we're sharing with you guys, that you're just trying to find that light at the end of the tunnel, and you keep driving, you keep hitting the pedal to the metal, and you just don't see it. Perseverance, finding a good partner, finding a good team is very important, because if one piece starts to rattle, the other ones can come together and kind of hold you in place. And that's what we did. We were able to bounce off each other to keep each other
Yeah.
sane, as well as the team try to keep us sane. And we were blessed to have the medical center to kind of be like, you know what, at least we have this project as well, and it's going well, and it's
Mm.
moving forward. Yes, it has its challenges, but we're able to come together with the customer and ourselves and work out a solution. So I think if it was just that one project, I think the outcome would be much different. I think probably we would have reassessed a lot of things that we wanted to do, and maybe take some
Yeah.
decisions that, looking at the clock today, we would have said, oh my God, why did we not keep going forward? And regretting giving up, because yes, I was
Yeah.
assessing probably, you know what, this is not for me. Maybe I just go back and do something else in technology, or focus my attention on something different, enterprise and such. So having a team, having a good group, a good core to help you stay sane in those days of insanity is
Mm.
also very important. Being able to talk to someone about the challenges you're facing, having a partner with you that you can be able to say, man, I'm thinking about giving up. It's very important because if you're by yourself and you're in this silo, it's very easy for you to go into this rabbit hole
Yeah.
and chase the rabbit and end up in a really bad place. So a lot of lessons learned through this project, a lot of internal processes that we updated both in IT and digital marketing, especially when it comes to equipment ordering and those level of billing and things, as well as how we manage our contractors and contracts and projects that we assign to them when it's needed. We always try to keep everything in-house. We like to have that
Yep.
creative control. We like to have that creative power that comes with having your people in-house that you
Yeah.
can't really do with a contract, especially for digital marketing. So as crazy as that time was for us, it also was a time where we were able to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
We were able to look back and say, did we just make it through that?
Yeah.
Did we just achieve something that we were about to give up on or were questioning? And it was just very rewarding at the end. So chasing that carrot, not giving up, having a group of people that help you stay on focus, stay on point, and seeing that end result was very rewarding. And the best part is because of our performance to the project and everything else, we were able to secure management contracts for managed IT services. So we do their on-site support, maintenance, and front desk support desk activities, as well as digital marketing team handling all the branding, all the elements that they have in there. So I hope you guys find this episode a little interesting. I know it might be got a little too long, but it was just a very challenging time that the company went through where there was a lot of questions raised.
Let me just jump in really quickly. Imagine your company's expanding to a new sector digitally, and then all of this happen while you're building that. It's because there's a lot of uncertainty, and everything's from scratch on our end. On my end, everything was from scratch. So building someone else's from scratch while I am building my stuff from scratch, while we're building a second place from scratch, and then have one of those go so bad, it takes some guts. It takes some guts because one, as the person that is investing in the project, it requires a lot of patience. And number two, as a person that's working on the investment, to not feel like it's a failure. And I think that can happen to anyone that's starting any project, because things like that can happen. And
Yeah,
then you will be in your head, you will be a failure. And at the end of the day, we secure the contract, and we're going to be working again on another rebrand, not a relaunch, a rebrand. And we're super excited. We do have new designers, we do have new talent in house, and we are excited to work and improve that, and then show you guys through our social media the evolution of,
of this interesting project.
yeah.
It goes back to what Mallory was saying. It's just a lot of people think, oh, you have your own company. Oh my God, you must be, rolling in money and things like that. So it just people don't see the pain, the sweat, the tears, the blood that
The
goes
time.
into getting things off the ground, because we took on this project as we were developing this new arm of the company. And could have we waited? Of course, but I'm not gonna waste an opportunity. When I see an opportunity come forward, say, hey, you guys also do this, and perfect. I'm gonna say yes, because somebody else will take that opportunity, and then you can sit back and say the one I let get away.
You
So
got to risk it.
you in business have to take those risks. Some risks pay off, others don't. But again, that's the gamble, and you have to roll them dice and see what happens. In this
Yeah.
case, we were lucky to get to the end of the tunnel, and we're still working with them. We're still processing and finishing some additional items and services. So I'm happy to say that it had a happy ending story.
At
But
the end of
man,
the day.
was it one that I thought would get to it? I'll tell you again. If you asked me from back then, I would have said no. This is gonna be
No.
the end of QTech and everything else because of the challenge and the cloudiness that this project brought
Yeah.
to both of us. So
Yeah.
your
Same
listeners,
here. you know, you just kind of want to give up. But if you have a project, if you have a business, if you want to start a project, if you want to start a business, don't give up. It's really going to get really, really hard and you're going to suffer. And that's the truth. But if you're passionate about it enough and you believe in yourself enough, you're not trying to prove someone else but yourself that you can make it happen, you will. Even if, this is a project that took like 2 or 3 years and, here we are. We learned a lot, definitely taught at least me that, I could have just given up. I don't want to build a marketing agency with this crap. Like everything went south. But I can say that it just made everything that we're building stronger and better and also helped our communication. And, once you work with someone on stressful times, you get to see other stuff shining
You
through.
learn more about
So
individual.
you really need to learn how to cope with that as well. And it really helped us to manage ourselves so we don't kill each other in stressful times. So that's another lesson learned. Um, and that would be all. I hope that you guys like this. We were really trying to make this shorter. So we
We were
really
trying.
were with the mindset. We are hearing you guys. You guys are saying, please, guys, make it a little bit shorter. We are trying. So stay tuned for next episode. It's going to be 30 minutes long.
Yes.
We promise. But this was just a little bit too juicy, so I guess that you guys will listen to the whole thing. And I think that that would be all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you guys on our next Monday
Take care, guys.
podcast. Bye, guys.